Did the Da Vinci Code violate the copyright in the book The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail? Hi there and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode of the Case Files, we're going to dive into a fascinating case which rocked the literary world between the best-selling novel The Da Vinci Code and the book titled The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. Let's get started. This case really was the clash of the literary titans. On one side, we had Michael Baigent and Richard Leigh, the authors of the book The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and on the other was the renowned fiction writer Dan Brown with his blockbuster hit The Da Vinci Code. In the early 2000s, Baigent and Leigh accused Dan Brown of violating the copyright in their book. Their claim was that the book The Da Vinci Code, published in 2003, took a bit too much inspiration from their book The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, which was first published in 1982. At the heart of the matter was a daring hypothesis in The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail about the legend of the Holy Grail. In the book, the writers suggested that the Grail or the chalice was really about the holy bloodline of Jesus Christ. It really does sound like the stuff of legends, right? Baigent and Leigh spun a story about a secret society, the Priory of Sion, sworn to protect this holy bloodline. They spun together historical fact and speculation, proposing a hidden truth behind the Grail. Then we have Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. The murder mystery kicks off with the death of the Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, and this leads the hero, Robert Langdon, diving headfirst into a quest to uncover the secrets of the Grail, all while dodging danger and deciphering cryptic clues. Baigent and Leigh argued that Dan Brown didn't just borrow ideas, but he copied the way that they connected the historical dots. They argued that it wasn't word-for-word plagiarism, but rather that it was mimicking the essence of their work. Now here's where copyright law comes into play. It famously protects expressions of ideas and not ideas itself. Since there was no actual copying of passages from the book, Baigent and Leigh argued there was non-literal copying of a substantial part of their literary work. They argued that Dan Brown stole the essence of their narrative, therefore falling within the ambit of copying the expression of their ideas, which is protected by copyright law. If you're curious to learn a little bit more about copyright law, you can check out my video on it. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. The thing is, it's tricky when you're dealing with historical facts. Historical facts cannot be protected as copyright, but the unique way that they are presented may be protected by copyright law. Baigent and Leigh aim to show that Dan Brown had copied not just the historical facts, but that he had ventured too close to their storytelling territory as well. So what did the courts decide? It acknowledged that Brown and his researcher heavily leaned on the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail for background material and research. However, the court ruled that there was no copyright infringement. Instead, the courts held that Brown had only used the existing works for inspiration and had not copied them. The courts held that facts, themes, and ideas cannot be protected by the law, but how those facts, themes, and ideas are put together can be protected by copyright law. It was for the claimants to show that there is a putting together of facts, themes, and ideas as a result of their efforts, and this had been copied by Mr. Brown. The courts held that the claimants, Baigent and Leigh, had failed to do so. In the end, the showdown wasn't just in the books. It was in the courtroom about the fine line between inspiration and imitation. But how important is this judgment going forward? It clearly lays down the difference between inspiration and imitation. Basically, using someone else's material, especially historical facts, for inspiration is not a violation of copyright law. Further, the judge did recognize that while facts, themes, and ideas cannot be protected by the law, the way they are put together by an author using their skill and labor can be protected by the copyright laws. The case highlighted the limitations of copyright protection in the context of historical research and non-fiction works, setting a precedent for similar cases in the future. It underscored the importance of balancing the rights of the authors with the public's rights to access historical information and ideas. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Case Files, where we discussed the case between the Da Vinci Code and the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. If you like this episode, do consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in another episode. Take care. Bye.